I'd like to briefly address an issue from yesterday's hearing regarding Sheila Baer's perspective on the Consumer Financial Products Agency. Sheila Baer has been very vocal, as have most of the other banking regulators, in expressing her concern over separating consumer protection from safety and soundness regulation. I'm sure under duress all will tote the line and endorse, but let's hear her concerns. And this is March 19th. She raised this issue before the Senate Banking Committee. She said, "The current bank regulation and supervision structure allows the banking agencies to take a comprehensive view of financial institutions from both a consumer protection and safety and soundness perspective. Banking agencies' assessments of risks to consumers are closely linked with and informed by a broader understanding of other risks in financial institutions. Conversely, assessments of other risks, including safety and soundness, benefit from knowledge of basic principles, trends, and emerging issues related to consumer protection. Separating consumer protection regulation and supervision into different organizations would reduce information that is necessary for both entities to effectively perform their functions. Separating consumer protection from safety and soundness would result in similar problems. Our experience suggests that the development of policy must be closely coordinated and reflect a broad understanding of institutions' managements, operations, policies, and practices, and the bank supervisory process as a whole. Placing consumer protection policy setting activities in a separate organization, apart from existing expertise and examination infrastructure, could ultimately result in less effective protection for consumers." I'd ask the Chair that Ms. Baer's testimony to the Senate Banking Committee be included into the record. And those concerns were the reason why I mentioned Ms. Baer, and I just wanted to correct the record to state her precise views. And I will go now to Mr. Brodsky with a question. As Congress looks at overhauling the regulatory structure over private pools of capital and the broader financial system, I think it's important that we focus more effective regulation as opposed to simply additional regulation. And we witnessed some gross negligence on behalf of the SEC during the Bernie Madoff incident and the hearing featuring Harry Markopoulos, who we heard from here in this committee. Do you believe the SEC and other financial services regulators are currently equipped to conduct examinations and other necessary regulatory steps?
I think this is a question of management at the SEC. And I think that the SEC, under its current leadership, has the proper focus to organize itself to do that. I mean, there's always going to be a situation where the cop on the beat misses something. I think the Madoff situation is particularly regrettable, and I think that there were things that were missed. But I think that the SEC has the proper legislative mandate to do it, and I think they just have to organize themselves in a better way, and I think the current chairman is the person to do that.
Well, let me ask you a question here that is on my mind, because in the hearing it became very clear that there was no one at the SEC who understood the Ponzi scheme strategy. There was no one who could uncover that. There was one in the Boston office, but in the over-lawyered SEC, he didn't have a seat at the table. Under that kind of culture, are you going to have anyone who can understand how an OTC derivatives contract is structured? Are you going to have anybody that understands how a hedge fund engages in quantitative analysis and complex trading strategies? I just wonder about what the SEC has already proven itself incapable of handling. And now we transfer this on top of the SEC. A story just broke, I think, yesterday about another example of another Bernie Madoff type swindle that the SEC had missed, where, again, information allegedly had been turned over to them. They hadn't even been able to decipher that with the information that had given them. Hence my thoughts on that. I'd also ask if any of the other panelists, maybe Mr. Stevens or Mr. Baker, anybody have any thoughts on this front? Mr. Stevens?
We have, over the recent years, Congressman emphasized the need for the SEC to focus on internal management issues and the capabilities and organization of its staff. That is unfortunately a priority that has not always been something that chairmen have been able to attend to because their tenures are fairly short. The markets have changed over the years much more than the SEC has. I think Chairman Shapiro has made it very clear that that kind of reinvention of her agency is what she's about, and that is what's required. I'm a lawyer, and I would agree with you. Different skill sets and different mixes and different organizational structures at the SEC would be very desirable. And I look at that not only as an issue of examination and enforcement, I look at it as an issue with respect to the formulation of appropriate regulations as well, where understanding regulated entities and regulated markets more intimately, not as lawyers do, but perhaps as economists do, would be very helpful in the mix. So
thank you,
Mr.
Stevens.
Encourage in that direction.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Waters.